I never expected my Monday morning trash duty would change my life forever. The positive pregnancy test lying right on top caught me completely off guard. For a split second, joy rushed through me, until I remembered my secret vasectomy 3 months ago. Jessica had been acting differently lately, more distant, always on her phone. Now I knew why. She was pregnant, but it definitely was not mine. Before I share how my world shattered in 20 seconds flat, let me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you want to hear how I rebuilt my life after discovering my wife's ultimate betrayal. My name is Benjamin, and at 34 years old I thought I had everything figured out. I worked as an architectural engineer at Westside Designs, one of the most prestigious firms in Portland. My projects had been featured in several architectural magazines, and my career was on an upward trajectory with a promotion on the horizon. Jessica and I met in high school, dated through college, and got married 7 years ago in a beautiful ceremony by the lake where we had our first date. Everyone called us the perfect couple. We bought a charming 3-bedroom house in the suburbs with a yard big enough for kids to play in someday. From the outside, our life seemed picture perfect. What most people did not know was my complicated relationship with the idea of fatherhood. My own mother abandoned my father and me when I was only 4 years old. One day she was there making pancakes. The next she was gone with no explanation. My father never remarried, dedicating his life to raising me while working 2 jobs. Growing up without a mother left deep scars that I carried into adulthood. Despite my reservations about parenthood, Jessica had been pushing the idea more frequently over the past 2 years. She talked constantly about her biological clock, how her friends were all having babies, and how we were financially stable enough to start a family. We had been saving diligently, ensuring we had a 6-month emergency fund and a dedicated account for future childcare expenses. The house we purchased had specifically been chosen with family growth in mind. I had almost convinced myself I was ready when everything changed during a routine physical last November. The doctor detected an unusual heart murmur which led to further testing. The results were shocking. I had a hereditary condition affecting my heart valves. While manageable with medication and lifestyle changes, the geneticist explained, I had a 50% chance of passing this condition to any biological children. I sat in the sterile examination room staring at the diagrams of defective heart valves while contemplating what this meant for our future. The doctor was kind but clear. Having biological children would be a significant risk. He suggested considering alternative options like adoption. For 3 weeks, I carried this knowledge alone, unsure of how to tell Jessica. I knew how badly she wanted to experience pregnancy and childbirth. Every time I started the conversation, I saw her face light up at the mention of children, and I could not bring myself to extinguish that joy. After extensive research and several sleepless nights, I made a decision that would later prove more consequential than I could have imagined. I scheduled a vasectomy at a clinic across town where no one would recognize me. I told Jessica I had a 3-day business trip to Seattle for a project consultation. The procedure was quick, and I recovered at a hotel before returning home, with a fabricated story about the business meetings. My plan was to suggest adoption once I found the courage to share my medical condition with Jessica. I convinced myself I was protecting her from disappointment, that we would still have the family she wanted, just through a different path. Now I recognize I betrayed her trust by making such a significant decision without her input, but I truly thought I was doing what was best for our future child and our marriage. Around the time of my procedure, Jessica started changing in subtle ways. She began working late 3 or 4 nights a week, claiming her marketing firm had taken on several demanding new clients. She bought new clothes more stylish and provocative than her usual conservative attire. Her phone, once casually left around the house, was now permanently attached to her hand and protected with a new password I did not know. The signs were there, blinking like warning lights, but I dismissed my growing suspicions. I trusted Jessica completely and could not imagine her being unfaithful. We had been together since we were 17, had built our entire adult lives together. Surely these changes had innocent explanations. Then came that Monday morning in February. Jessica had left early for a breakfast meeting with clients. I was taking out the trash before heading to work when I spotted the pregnancy test resting right on top of the bathroom waste. 2 pink lines clearly visible through the clear plastic casing. Positive. Undeniably positive. I stood there in our driveway, trash bag in one hand, pregnancy test in the other, as the winter wind cut through my jacket. It was medically impossible for me to father a child after my vasectomy, which could only mean one thing: Jessica was carrying another man's baby. I went through the entire day in a fog, somehow managing to attend meetings and respond to emails while my personal life imploded. Jessica texted me about picking up dinner, acting completely normal, as if she was not harboring a life-altering secret. I responded with equal normalcy, playing a role in what I now realized was a completely fabricated marriage. That evening over lasagna from our favorite Italian restaurant, Jessica looked nervous but excited. She waited until I had taken a few bites before saying the words that confirmed my worst fears. "Ben, I have amazing news," she said, reaching for my hand across the table. "We are going to have a baby." I forced a smile even as I felt my world crumbling. "Wow," I managed to say. "That is incredible. When did you find out?" "Yesterday," she lied smoothly. "I wanted to be sure before telling you. I know how much you have wanted this." The performance was masterful. If I had not found the test myself, if I did not know about my vasectomy, I would have believed every word. I played along, asking appropriate questions about due dates and prenatal appointments, while noting every slight hesitation, every carefully constructed answer. After dinner, she initiated intimacy, something that had become increasingly rare over the past months. I made an excuse about an early meeting and slept on the edge of the bed as far from her as possible without raising suspicion. Once Jessica fell asleep, I took my laptop to the home office and spent hours researching paternity fraud. The stories from other men were heartbreaking, many discovering the truth years later after raising children they thought were biologically theirs. I read about legal options, DNA testing, and divorce proceedings, until my eyes burned from exhaustion. The next morning, I called my office and requested a sick day for the first time in 3 years. Jessica seemed surprised, but did not question it, saying she would be home for lunch between meetings. I nodded, wondering if these meetings actually existed or were covers for meeting her lover. Around 10 in the morning, Jessica's phone rang. I was in the bedroom when I heard her answer it in the home office. Something in her tone made me pause. She sounded secretive, guarded. I moved closer to the heating vent near our shared wall, suddenly aware I could hear her conversation clearly. "Mom, you cannot tell anyone yet." Jessica said, her voice low but excited. "I just told Ben last night, and he is thrilled exactly as expected." There was a pause as her mother spoke. Then Jessica continued, "Of course I will tell him it is his. My lover is not ready for a baby. He might leave me. Besides, Ben has always wanted a baby." My knees nearly buckled. Hearing the words spoken so plainly, so calculatingly, was different from suspecting them. Each word felt like a physical blow. "It is perfect timing, since we have been trying so hard anyway," she continued, completely unaware. I could hear every word. "No, Mom. I am sure Ben will never find out. He trusts me completely." What followed was even worse. Jessica revealed details about her affair with her boss, Thomas Wellington, a married father of 3 who had apparently been pursuing her for over a year. She described their hotel meetings, the expensive gifts, and her fantasies about a future together once he left his wife. "Thomas says he loves me, but he is not ready to blow up his life right now," Jessica told her mother. "The baby was not planned, but I am keeping it. Ben will be a good father, and he makes enough money that I can take extended maternity leave." I stumbled back to the bedroom, barely making it to the bathroom before becoming violently ill. The calculated betrayal was worse than anything I could have imagined. Not only was she cheating, but she was deliberately planning to trick me into raising another man's child while continuing her affair. Once the shock subsided, a cold clarity took over. I waited until Jessica left for her meeting at noon before springing into action. I collected my birth certificate, social security card, and other important documents from our fire safe. I took only essential clothing and personal items, leaving behind anything Jessica had given me. While searching for my passport in Jessica's desk, I discovered a hidden phone taped under a drawer. The device contained hundreds of explicit messages between her and Thomas dating back nearly 14 months. There were also exchanges with someone named Ryan from her gym, suggesting Thomas was not her only affair partner. Even more shocking were bank statements showing Jessica had been siphoning money from our joint account into a private one I knew nothing about. Nearly $30,000 of our savings, intended for our future family, had been diverted to fund her secret life. I photographed everything, then called my father, who lived 2 hours away. He listened in stunned silence before simply saying, "Come home, son." I next contacted Eric Matthews, a divorce attorney who had represented a colleague during his recent divorce. He agreed to see me that afternoon. Before leaving, I wrote a brief note and left it on the kitchen counter. I know about Thomas. I know about the baby. Nothing more needed to be said. By 3 o'clock, I had checked into a hotel across town, met with the attorney, and initiated the process to freeze our joint accounts. I turned off my phone after the first dozen frantic calls from Jessica. I needed space to think without her manipulations clouding my judgment. The next 3 days passed in a blur of legal meetings and emotional breakdowns. I moved into my childhood bedroom at my father's house feeling like I had regressed to adolescence despite my professional success. My father, having experienced similar betrayal decades earlier, knew when to offer advice and when to simply sit in supportive silence. Jessica's messages evolved in a predictable pattern. First came denial. I do not know what you think you heard, but you are wrong. Then gaslighting. You are being paranoid, Ben. Maybe you should talk to someone professional. This was followed by blame shifting. If you had not been so distant lately, I would not have been vulnerable to attention from someone else. Finally came desperate, begging, please come home. I love you. We can work through this. Think about our baby. Each message reinforced my decision to leave. The attorney advised documenting everything while preparing divorce papers, citing infidelity and financial deception. We discovered Jessica had immediately attempted to drain our remaining joint accounts upon finding my note confirming her true character. During this time, I conducted my own investigation into Thomas Wellington. He was not difficult to find. A quick social media search revealed his family photographs with his wife Sarah and their 3 children, his country club membership, and his luxury home in the wealthiest neighborhood in Portland. His wife ran a successful interior design business and appeared completely unaware of her husband's extracurricular activities. I debated whether involving Sarah was the right thing to do. Would I be causing unnecessary pain to an innocent family, or did she deserve to know the truth about her husband? After considerable thought, I decided I would want to know if I were in her position. I mailed an anonymous package to their home address containing copies of several explicit messages between Thomas and Jessica, a timeline of their affair based on hotel receipts I had found, and the positive pregnancy test in a sealed plastic bag. I included a brief note: I thought you should know what your husband has been doing with my wife. 2 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a woman's voice asked, "Is this Benjamin Martin?" "Yes," I replied cautiously. "This is Sarah Wellington. I received your package." Her voice was steady, controlled. "Thank you for sending it. We need to talk." We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe halfway between our locations. Sarah was elegant but visibly exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, suggesting sleepless nights similar to my own. After ordering coffee, she got straight to the point. "Thomas had a vasectomy 5 years ago. After our youngest was born," she said, without preamble. I nearly choked on my coffee. What Sarah nodded grimly. "It is medically impossible for him to father a child. I suspected he was having an affair for months, but your evidence confirmed it. However, whoever got your wife pregnant, it was not my husband." The revelation hit me like a thunderbolt. Jessica had been sleeping with at least one other person besides Thomas. Her betrayal was even more extensive than I had imagined. Sarah and I spent the next 2 hours comparing notes. She had already confronted Thomas, who admitted to the affair but was shocked about the pregnancy. Apparently, Jessica had told him she was on birth control. He had broken things off immediately upon learning she was pregnant, terrified of the potential scandal. Thomas has been embezzling from the company, Sarah revealed, showing me financial documents she had discovered while searching their home office. He has been using company funds to buy Jessica gifts, pay for hotels, even that trip to Cabo San Lucas they took in December. I had known nothing about any trip to Cabo. Jessica had told me she was at a marketing conference in Chicago that week. The deceptions were stacking up like bodies in a horror movie. Sarah and I formed an unlikely alliance, 2 betrayed spouses seeking justice. She planned to report Thomas's financial misdeeds to the company board while negotiating a divorce settlement that would protect her children's future. Meanwhile, I proceeded with my divorce, armed with extensive evidence of Jessica's infidelity and financial deception. Jessica's world began collapsing rapidly. Thomas cut off all contact with her, focused on damage control with his wife and employer. The company launched an investigation into the financial irregularities Sarah had reported. Jessica's carefully constructed house of cards was falling apart. In a desperate attempt to salvage something, Jessica showed up at my father's house one evening, tears streaming down her face as she begged for another chance. "I made a terrible mistake, Ben," she sobbed. "But this baby deserves a father. We can start fresh, be a family like we always planned." My father, who had been silently observing from the doorway, finally spoke. "My son deserves better than a lifetime with someone who would trap him with another man's child." Jessica turned ugly, then screaming that I was no better, that I had deceived her too by getting a vasectomy without telling her. I realized she must have found medical paperwork I had forgotten to conceal. In that moment, watching her rage and manipulation, I knew I had made the right decision to leave, regardless of my own mistakes. The following week, Jessica showed up at my workplace, creating a scene in the lobby. Surrounded by colleagues and clients, she broke down, completely admitting to multiple affairs and the paternity deception, while simultaneously blaming me for driving her to such desperate measures. Security escorted her out, but not before my entire professional circle became aware of my personal drama. To my surprise, the support from coworkers was overwhelming. Many shared their own stories of relationship betrayals and recovery, making me realize how common yet devastating such experiences are. My boss assured me my position was secure and offered flexible hours to attend legal proceedings. Meanwhile, Thomas Wellington was terminated after the company investigation revealed he had misappropriated over $100,000. Criminal charges were being considered. Sarah filed for divorce, citing infidelity and financial misconduct, and secured a temporary restraining order after Thomas threatened her during a confrontation about the evidence she had provided to his employer. 6 months after finding that pregnancy test, my divorce was finalized with terms heavily in my favor. The evidence of Jessica's infidelity, combined with proof of her financial deception, convinced the judge to rule against her claims to our joint assets. She received only what she had brought into the marriage, and a small settlement that barely covered her legal fees. I learned through mutual friends that Jessica had suffered a miscarriage in her 3rd month, adding another layer of tragedy to an already painful situation. Despite everything she had done, I felt a moment of genuine sympathy for her loss. No one deserves such pain, regardless of past actions. Jessica moved back to her hometown in Ohio, taking a position at a smaller marketing firm and starting over. Her occasional emails became less frequent, then stopped entirely. Our chapter together was finally closed. I remained in Portland but moved to a small apartment closer to downtown. The house we had shared held too many tainted memories. I began seeing a therapist who specialized in betrayal trauma, slowly working through the trust issues that now colored my view of relationships. An unexpected friendship developed between Sarah Wellington and me. Having weathered similar storms, we understood each other's healing process in ways others could not. We met monthly for coffee, sharing updates on our recovery and rebuilding efforts. Her divorce had finalized around the same time as mine, and she was focusing on expanding her interior design business while co-parenting her children with Thomas, who had avoided jail time by agreeing to a substantial restitution payment. I never thought I would say this. Sarah told me during one of our meetups, but discovering Thomas's betrayal may have been the best thing that happened to me. I was living in a beautiful prison, ignoring red flags because it was easier than confronting the truth. I understood exactly what she meant. The painful revelation of Jessica's betrayal had freed me from a marriage built on lies. Had I not discovered the truth when I did, I might have raised another man's child without knowing my entire life constructed on a foundation of deception. The support group for infidelity survivors that my therapist recommended became an essential part of my healing journey. Hearing others share their experiences normalized my feelings of rage, grief, and eventual acceptance. One member had discovered his wife's affair after 20 years of marriage. Another had learned through a DNA test that 2 of his 3 children were not biologically his. My story, while painful, was not unique. I gradually became more open about my hereditary heart condition. In previous dating attempts, I had hidden this aspect of myself, fearing rejection or judgment. Now, I recognized that honesty was non-negotiable in any relationship worth having. The right person would accept all of me, medical conditions included. A year after my world imploded, I accepted a promotion that required relocating to Denver. The fresh start in a new city accelerated my healing. Without constant reminders of my failed marriage, I could focus on building a future rather than processing the past. At a hospital fundraiser I attended for a work project, I met Allison, a pediatric cardiology nurse, whose passion for helping children with heart conditions immediately resonated with me. Our conversation flowed effortlessly as she shared stories of her young patient's resilience. Over the following months, we developed a friendship that slowly evolved into something deeper. When the time felt right, I shared the whole truth about my past, including my condition, the vasectomy, and Jessica's betrayal. Rather than being deterred, Allison appreciated my honesty. "I see children with heart conditions every day," she told me. "Many of them are adopted or in foster care. There are so many ways to build a family that do not rely on biological connection." Her words healed something deep inside me. The possibility of becoming a father through adoption someday no longer felt like a consolation prize, but a beautiful alternative path. With Allison, I could imagine a future built on mutual respect and complete transparency, the foundation my marriage to Jessica had lacked. Looking back now, I realize that finding that pregnancy test was actually the beginning of my real life, not the end of it. The pain of betrayal taught me to value honesty above all else. The collapse of my marriage showed me my own resilience. The rebuilding process revealed what truly matters in relationships, not perfect circumstances, but perfect transparency. Have you ever had your intuition save you from an even bigger heartbreak? Share your story in the comments below. If this story helped you feel less alone in your journey, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength after betrayal. And if you know someone struggling with trust issues after being deceived, share this video with them. Remember, sometimes the most painful endings create space for the beginning you actually deserved. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you relationships built on nothing but truth.